Hello, my name's Vicky Haffenden and I'm an expert on machine knitting and the author of several books on machine knitting, which hopefully some of you have on your bookshelves, Translating Between Hand and Machine Knitting, Single Bed and Double Bed Machine Knitting, the Designer's Guide, and shortly to be published and maybe published by the time you watch this is the Machine Knitter's Guide to Partial Knitting, Seamless Pattern, Shape and Form. I have a career which included industrial machine knitting, designing freelance in knitwear, and latterly teaching in higher education as a senior lecturer in knitwear design with a specialism in electronic knitting and machine knitting. So I have quite a lot of experience in machine knitting, as you can gather. One of the things that I did when I was in industry was worked with circular knitting machines, and I also personally own a little antique sock machine, which is a circular knitting machine, which are comprised of needles that point upwards in a cylinder like this. Some of you may have seen or may own a little I-cord machine, which is also a circular knitting machine. Now these machines work by, they have a drum of needles, a cylinder of needles, which you can see in there. And this has 4 needles, and as you turn the handle, the needles come up, take the yarn and knit and produce an I-cord. Now as you can see, here's the I-cord coming at the bottom, and that is 4 needles, 4 stitches created on 4 needles in a tube. And there's a weight on the bottom here, which has to hold it down. You have to have the weight, otherwise it won't work. And as you turn the handle, the needles go up and down and take the yarn. This is just knitting with standard double knit acrylic. I don't know if you can see that as this knits, this is having to twist. See the weight? I mean, the bobble there is just a ball of I-cord I've already made, but the weight is twisting. The whole piece of I-cord is twisting, which means it can get tangled with your yarn, and also when you get to the floor, that weight has to be disconnected, the yarn, the I-cord rolled up as I've done it here, and the weight reconnected, which slows you down a bit, can be a bit frustrating. But they're neat little machines, very, very simple, relatively cheap to buy, and produce a nice little I-cord. Now I've used I-cord for various things, one of which is I make my own yarn to crochet with. This little basket I'm in the process of making. People use them for various things. So an interesting concept. Now, recently I've noticed that there is another product on the market, and I contacted them and asked them if I could have a look at it and see a little review. So this is the Caydo automatic I-cord machine. We'll be looking at it together later on in the video. I'm going to unpack it, show you what's in the box, and then get it going. I have unpacked it once, of course, already, just to check it's all there, and we'll be going through it together in a minute. So let's see what's in the box. You get an instruction manual, pretty comprehensive, different languages, lots of nice clear pictures. A little box of accessories, a hook, spare needles, a screwdriver, some other little bits and pieces that I'm sure we'll find out are in the book. And let's save this holder, it says, for hook replacement. So that means when you want to replace the needles. I can't get in here now. I don't know how to get it out. It's well packaged, certainly well packaged. I don't want to hurt it, so I might turn this up and pull it out this way, I think. That's some parts of it, and this is the actual machine itself coming out now. Let's put the book out the way, box out the way. Turn it over like this. See what we got. So we hang on to this for replacing needles. That's a packaging part. And here we're getting the little machine out. It's exciting. I love knitting machines, so I can chat about them all the time. So there it is. These are the needles. Oh, that's a little controller of some sort. Be careful, it says. Long hair can get caught in the machine, which, believe me, is true. I've had that happen to me. Not with this machine, but with particularly when I work with students, they with long hair. So now let's open this. And in here you've got, this is a piece for the end. And you've got the USB connection and a little bottle of grease. It says, proper application of grease ensures smooth latch movement. So hang on to that. Then in this one, we have, some yarn. Look at that. That's nice. In the same colour as the machine. Some bits of yarn. That's lovely. Okay. Thoughtful. Because now you can actually start knitting straight away, which of course most people want to do when they get the machine, as do I. So here's our little power cord. Now this is interesting because it's made so that the needles point sideways. It's horizontal basically, compared to this one, which I was just showing you, which works vertically. So when I'm knitting with this one, the needles point upwards. When I'm knitting with the Caydo I-cord, the automatic I-cord machine, they do a hand one as well, but the needles are pointing this way. And it's got a contraption here, which is a roller, which, judging by the pictures, will take the I-cord out to the side. So I'm just going to quickly check on the instruction manual and set it up. So what you've got in the box, there was this box of accessories, and the instruction manual tells you what they are. You've got a screwdriver, you get a long hook, you get a sewing needle, a set of screws, which I think of the yarn guide. They're yarn guide screws, and some spare needles, which we won't take out at the moment. Those are the spare needles. So they can go back. They come in a nice box, so you can keep all your accessories together, which is very neat because I'm always losing accessories. And we're going to fit the yarn guide. And we've also got the piece of plastic, the foam that said to save it for replacement use only. So we won't need the sewing needle for the moment, so that can go back in the box. And I'm not going to keep that out for the moment either, just because it'll get in the way. So we've got the screws, we've got the yarn guide, and we've got the machine. And the other thing I meant to say is that it's got a USB connector here. And what's really nice is it has a proper UK power plug on it, which will actually make a difference to it's much easier than plugging it into a USB socket. Oh, I think it is anyway. I'm pleased about that myself. Smooth and light fit. Right. Getting to know it. This is your cord. I'll turn it on its side. This is the cord guide wheel. This is the yarn guide hole, and this is called a hook deflector brush. So I think what it does is, like the brushes on a flatbed machine, it opens the hooks, I think. And the yarn guide's going to go on here like this. You've got the knob here where you can turn it from purl to knit. You've got a little light, and you've got the power and the speed switch. And I showed you the UK, it's a USB-C power point. So we're going to attach the yarn guide. I'm just reading the instructions here. The yarn guide installations. You align the notches. So this is going to come upright. So if we're looking from the side again, we align that in there. And we press it in. Oops. Press it in and then install a screw. There we are, it's in there. And then there's a screw which goes down through here. So we'll take a screw. Take one out of there. I think they're all the same. They look all the same. Put them back in the accessory box. Pop the screw in there. So I get Barry Butterfingers, and you've got the little screwdriver to do it up with. And I'm assuming they give you spare ones because there's something you lose, but it might be not. Maybe there's something else I have to do with them. Oh, look, here we go. That's it. The inefficiency of it all. Of me. Don't want to rest on its back there too much. I think that might have popped out. Okay. In a bit more. There we are. That's firm now. I don't want to over tighten it, but equally I want it done up tight. There we are. It's got the yarn got on it now, so that's it from the side. All ready to go. Now there's a bit in the manual which is really important about we talked about the controls, which you've got your off and your 2 speeds, and you've got your purl or your knit, which turns like that. We're going to go purl, knit, I mean, sorry, that way, like that, knit. But it talks about types of yarn. Now I think it's really nice they give you 2 balls of yarn because this is the one, presumably, that works the best in the machine. They call it 3. On here it says 3 light DK. Oh, it says 3 light. No, I think it says 3. It says 3 light, but I'm assuming it means that it's a light DK yarn. They differentiate their yarns in a slightly different way from how a lot of people do. So if you look here, they talk about yarn selections. They do say the type of yarn is important, and with any knitting machine, we know, those who machine knit, and with hand knitting as well, the yarn is really important. So they say to use the correct type of yarn. They say it's only suitable for yarn weights from 2 to 4, which they call fine, light and medium. And they give you lots of information here about how to measure your yarn. They're talking about doing something called wraps per inch, which is in the second section. How is yarn measured? Well, if you're a weaver, or sometimes a knitter as well, you measure it with a ruler and you wrap your yarn around the ruler across an inch. So you take an inch and you wrap your yarn round and round. So I've got some yarn here that I've prepared earlier that I was using on the other one. So you take your yarn and you wrap it round an inch of ruler, not too tight, and you don't squash it up together, but you wind it like this until you've got an inch worth of ruler covered, and then you count those wraps. So that's it helps if you're not quite as candid as I'm being, but there, let's say there we are. So that's covering an inch. You can tape the end down if you want to, and now you count those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. I would say I've had done it a bit tight. So that was a DK, a UK double knit, which is the equivalent of I'm just going to check here, light worsted American. And I've got about 11 wraps to the inch, probably not quite 12. So that means it will work on this machine. They say the yarn at 11 wraps per inch is a 4, and they reckon this machine will work with 2 till 4. So 2, what they call 2, which is the yarn weight fine. Yeah, if you can see it, it's a bit shiny, sorry. Is sport or baby weight, 12 to 18 wraps per inch. They're saying the medium one, which is light, is a DK, which I've just wound up, or a light worsted, 11 to 12 wraps per inch, and the medium, which is a worsted, an Afghan or an Aran, 9 to 12 wraps per inch. So in theory, it's going to work with UK baby weight to Aran, but I would say Aran might be a little bit heavy for it, but we'll see. You know, my little hand one wouldn't do Aran. It will go to DK, but the hooks on the needles are not big enough for an Aran. Looking at this closely, I would say the hooks on the needles might be big enough. They're bigger, definitely bigger needles. And you can look down there, you've got 4 needles, the same as on the other one. There's also a bit in here about unsuitable yarns, and that's an interesting thing because not all yarns are equal. I mean, using an acrylic DK like this, that's probably the easiest yarn to knit with on any knitting machine because it's strong, it's even, it's got a bit of spring, it doesn't break easily. Therefore, and those are the same, these ones they've given you. Therefore, they're saying that will be the easiest thing to work with. So I would suggest, from my point of view, as well as the manufacturer's point of view, that's what you start with. Don't try and put a mohair on it straight away or a very fancy yarn. They recommend that fluffy yarns don't work because they're easy to break, they can be poor quality, and you'll get fluff in your machine. Now, as you get better at using it, you may find you can use fancier yarns. But to begin with, do yourself a favour and don't do that. Start with the bog standard acrylic they've given you. Very bulky yarns aren't going to work very well. And I don't know what they say, hard yarns. I don't quite know what they mean. I think tightly twisted, very tightly twisted yarns, like perhaps a crochet cotton, may not work so well. But you'd have to try it. They also suggest, and I would again say for machine knitting that's true, you don't want a multi-stranded yarn that's not very twisted because it will just split the yarn as you try and use it. So work within the limitations of the machine to start with and push that as you're confident with it. But be very careful and don't break the machine because it will tear the cogs and whatever. You could hear my little hand one was struggling because I have put more than I should have through that probably. So I've put in the yarn guide. This is the next page. And then on page 10, it starts how to use it. You can scan for a video tutorial, which is really useful. And then they say use the yarn we've provided. So I'm just going to thread up some yarn. And what I've got here, I'm not going to use their yarn because I would have to wind that onto centre pull balls because I wouldn't use it like that on a knitting machine. So I'm going to use the lilac acrylic I was using on the I-cord machine in my earlier video, a DK yarn that I've wound onto a ball that will pull off easily and put it on a little centre bit here. Now you might, if you wind centre ball balls, you might take yours from the centre. I wind it on a centre ball ball winder, but I take it from the outside. That's just the way I prefer to do it. So they say place the machine on a flat and stable surface, pull up the yarn guide and place the yarn into the yarn guide channel. I'm going to put my yarn on the floor because it's going to be in the way otherwise. So you pull up this bit of the yarn guide, pull this up, the little collar lifts up, put the yarn underneath it, which will add tension to it. You see their picture here, I would ignore that. I would definitely use a centre pull ball. That's going to not work very well because they're going to bounce around. The next step is to take the yarn through the clear plastic guard. There's a hole in it. You can see there's a hole in it there. We're going to take it through that hole. So the yarn goes through the hole from out to in, and you hold the tail over here. Whoops, without dropping that. That's it. Is there actually something to catch it in? Yeah, there's underneath here, which I haven't got in. There's a little sort of trough. So you lift it up and drop the yarn in the trough, and then it won't come out. So that was my fault. Didn't read it properly. So it's in the little trough. If I turn it on the side, you can see that in there. And if you can see it, there's a little bit it's gone through now. So it's not going to keep falling out like it was. Got the tail here. Use the hook to pass the yarn from right to left. Well, I'm going left to right, aren't I? Through the knitting machine channel and remove the hook. So this is the hook they gave you. So you use the eye of the tool, thread the yarn through the eye of the tool, and then you push it down the centre between the needles, out the other end. Don't push it all the way or you'll hit the roller, and then pull it out of the eye. And pull that back. That's now through the machine, like that. So past it from right to left through the channel, remove the hook, lift the guide wheel handle. Press the yarn between the two wheels from behind. Actually, there it's there between the two. So it's now between this wheel and this wheel. So I got it in there by lifting that up and popping it between the two. So it's now held between the two cogged wheels. And then make sure it is straight under tension before you go any further. And make sure your power switch is off, but you can plug in your USB now. Might be sensible before you forget and didn't do it. Plug that in there. Now we've got to open all the hooks, which you always have to on a knitting machine to make sure they're going to pick up. So that's the latch must be open. So you must see a hook without a latch on it. They must be open like this. Opened, and we start to catch the yarn into the hook. So we manually catch it. So we're turning it to the knit direction, and as it catches in the first needle, you then skip the next needle. So you take it behind the next needle, and then you catch it into the next needle by turning the handle. If the hooks are open, it will just catch, and then you miss the next needle by taking the yarn behind it. Now you can do another couple of rows if you want to, just to make sure that it's all knitting. Should be by now. Okay. So that's the same movement as the little hand knitter was doing. Okay, but your yarn is now being fed automatically, tensioned automatically rather than by your fingers, and taken off by this tail. So checklist is, have I got my yarn through the yarn feeder here? Have I got it down through here through the two cogged wheels at the back? And have I got it caught on all the needles? Pull the tail back just to make absolutely sure it's pulled through, because these are going to do that for you. And now the truth of the pudding, whatever, is we're going to turn it to 1 and watch it knit. They suggest for double knitting, which this is, you keep the speed between 1 and 2. And that's very true, because with my small one, I find that I have to knit slowly with double knitting. And now it's pulling the yarn up. And you can just see the I-cord beginning to come through at the end here. It's very exciting. See if I can pull the camera down. No, I can't. But there it comes. There comes the I-cord. There, I'm very impressed with that. They say wait till you've got about 10 stitches going. For its auto feeding, it's making flat noise that it's catching my yarn. I'll pull some out. And there it is. Well, that's very nice. I'm going to keep it running at 2 for the moment. And you'll see, I'm going to let the I-cord build up here and you'll see it. And I'll speed this bit up. That's quite enough of that. Now I'm going to knit to the end and I'll show you how to take it off. Put it up to speed 2. I'll just run that on speed 2 for a tiny bit. Seems to work fine with the double knit, not a problem. I mean, the only concerns I would have is that the plastic parts will probably wear out, but you know, you're talking about quite a long time and you're talking about the price compared to a metal machine, so pretty good. I'm quite impressed. This, you have to watch this doesn't tangle. If it tangles, it will stop the machine. So I'll knit this and then I'll get back to you. Before I finish all the knitting, I just want to draw your attention to how this is different from the little hand machines. Now with the hand machines, the needles revolve, the whole cylinder revolves, which means that this bit at the end of the I-cord, which you can't actually see, but the I-cord twists as it comes off the machine. which when I was hand using it, you could see it twizzling around, which means it actually gets in your way, it gets caught around the yarn feed. Now this machine, it's the yarn that goes round the cylinder rather than the cylinder that goes around the yarn. So you don't get that twisting problem. Therefore, it's a much more efficient way of knitting, and I would say is a much less fiddly way of working and saves you the problem of them catching. So it goes. It's a much better design, I think, and I like this very much. So we've got to the end. We've run out of yarn, a little bit left. Yeah. Got a lovely pile of I-cord here, which it coils into a lovely little pile for you here. So in the book they suggest you run it to the end till it runs out of yarn, then you open the little wheels here and you pull it through. You could join another colour on, which I would put in a very tiny little knot and carry it through, and you could knit with your other colour. Or you can knit another whole separate piece of I-cord, and according to the instructions in the book, I'll find it to you, you can join them together with something called a graft. It's in German. I'll find you the English version. But you could. The pictures are the same. You can join two I-cord ends, and basically you make two ends like I'm just going to make, and then you use your sewing needle to sew through and make a little draft the stitches together. It's probably something you'd want to practice with first, but yeah, so we'll just run this through to the end, and it will actually knock the stitches off, and then you open this and you pull it through, and there's the end of your I-cord. 4 stitches, and you can pull it back if you want to, so you have an end, or let's just pull it back a little bit, about 10-15 centimeters, and then you take your sewing needle, which I've carefully put somewhere, I can't find it, there we are already. See, I told you I'd lose them. You take a sewing needle, just move that out of the way so you can see against a white background. Take your sewing needle and thread the end through the needle, and then take it back through those 4 stitches to catch them in, like that. Through 1, through 2, through the 3rd, and then through the 4th. So every stitch has been caught, and then pull it up, and there you've got the end. It's not going to go anywhere. So you've now got 2 closed ends to your I-cord, and loads of lovely I-cord. I really like this little machine. I think what it does is neat. Comparable, here's the, just move my away. This is the I-cord I knitted on the hand one. Whoops, let me just undo it. Here we are. It's in the same yarn, so you can see. And this is the one that the automatic I-cord knitted. Now I would say there's not much between those two, to be honest. I suppose the automatic one is slightly more even. I can't pull this up because I'm not. It's slightly more even. That's this one, nearest at the bottom of the screen, and it is slightly bigger, slightly thicker than the one on the manual machine. And I would say that's because the hooks are bigger, and that's why it's got bigger stitches, although it's only 4 needles, and the tension is more even, and the pull on it, the pull is more even, and the yarn feeding tension is more even. Therefore, you get a more even result altogether, and a slightly bigger tube. Not that much in it. You'd have to decide what you think is a good investment for you. I don't know what the little I-cord manual machines are now. I paid about £12 for that, but I wouldn't know what they are now. You'd have to look on the web or your local yarn store, hopefully. And Caydo also make an electric version of the upright one, so that might be an alternative. But I can't comment on that. I haven't used it, but I would imagine it has the same shortfalls as the manual one, in that the yarn is the resulting I-cord is twisting all the time. This one I really like because it emulates the industrial versions in that the yarn is fed in and the twisting doesn't occur in the I-cord. So the I-cord is taken out smoothly. It's not twisting at all, and the yarn is fed around the needles rather than the needles going around the yarn. So for me, I really like that. I think it's a great result. It means I can have a cup of tea, make a cup of tea whilst I'm doing it. I wouldn't leave it unattended. I would always stay with it, but you can keep an eye on it. And it gives you a really good result. I mean, money-wise, it would be very much up to you if you want to invest in it, depending on what you're going to do with it. I mean, I think it's about just over £100 in the UK. The electric vertical version is about £50, I think, might be more. And a little hand version, like I showed you earlier, of the made by various different companies, is probably about 20 now. So big difference in price, but big difference in performance. Yeah, I can't. I'm sure I could fault it if I worked at it for ages, but I've only just played with it. I'm very impressed with it. It does what it says on the tin. I hope that seems a fair review. We've gone through it. We've seen what it's like. Reasonably heavy. Doesn't walk around when you're using it. I haven't tried it with fluffy yarns or any of the yarns they say don't try it with, because this is a review of the machine as it comes. There are people on the internet who've reviewed it with other yarns and who've compared and contrasted it with hand ones. So if you look for those, you'll get a different review. But from my point of view, I really like the Caydo automatic I-cord machine. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this fair and even review. I was prepared to be disappointed in it, but I'm not. I think it's a pretty well thought through machine. As I say, how long it will last, I don't know. That would be something you need to think about, how much you're going to use it, whether you need to invest in a commercial, big industrial one rather than a plastic one. Up to you. But from my point of view, through testing it today, it does what it says.